reach a destination faster, we make use of sources like Google Map or by calling a friend. This helps us create a systematic plan in the duration to reach there. Therefore, a roadmap is very important. Likewise, a general model for counseling children helps the counselors in developing a systematic plan to reach the goal and also to assess the required time for counseling. Rogers, Egan, Truex, and Karkov, along with Kapusi and Gross, they have given the core conditions in counseling and they have also emphasized the cultural awareness in counseling. Core conditions that which are given by them are empathetic understanding, respect, positive regard, genuineness, congruence, concreteness, warmth and immediacy, and cultural awareness. So, when we say core conditions, the first one out over here, empathetic understanding, refers to the ability to understand a client's feelings, thoughts, ideas, and experiences through the child's frame of reference. Counselor is able to innate the worth and belief that each person is unique with their potential self and the strategies in dealing their concerns and the same needs to be conveyed to the client with respect and unconditional positive regard. Very many times we assume that the children lack understanding and that they lack maturity to understand their surroundings and their concerns, which is why counselors end up with advice and are looked down upon. This is when the counselor need to respect and give the responsibility to the client to make decisions that which are in client's control. Genuineness and congruence refers to the ability to be authentic rather than just being artificial in client counselor relationship. Concreteness refers to the counselor's ability to form complete pictures from a client's incomplete view of the situation. A child may not be able to give a clear picture of their problem, likely because of the lack of vocabulary and mode of communication. This is when the counselors need to use various techniques and identify the problem and give it a complete picture by obtaining clues from what the client is trying to say. Open ended questions come into a major action along with modes of art and play. Concreteness helps clarify vague issues, focus on specific topics, and reduces ambiguity. The counselor should be wise enough to understand what is real and important, as well as to tap on information obtained from the client's warmth relates to demonstrating care and concern for the child. This helps in developing a safe counseling environment for the client. Immediacy refers to the ability of the counselor to focus on the feelings and thoughts that are happening at the moment in the counseling relationship. It helps the client gain insight into their physiological and psychological reaction to the subject. For example, if the child portrays anger, then the counselor brings it to the notice of the client, and this in turn brings in awareness. And the last core condition mentioned out over here is cultural awareness. Well, it leads to counselors being open and motivated to understand their own culture as well as the culture diversity of their clients. With the help of these core conditions, counselors can expect the likelihood of the success in the counseling process. We have 6 steps in the general model for counseling. And the first one is defining the problem through active listening. Active listening is an essential component to develop positive and healthy interaction with the client. Active listening also helps in building rapport with the child. An open, relaxed posture is the best way to initiate a child to talk in the first step here. We also need to suggest the time limit for the counseling interview. It can vary according to the attention of the span of the child. Usually, the attention span of average children is 20 minutes. Therefore, we can utilize these 20 minutes to discuss the concern and the rest few minutes of the session. We can also introduce activities which the child may enjoy. We, as counselors, need to set the open tone and clear expectation when the child wishes to discuss the concern. We need to focus on three significant points. The first one, a problem that has not been solved. Second, feelings about the problem. And the third, expectation of what the counselor should do about the problem. That is, problem feelings and expectations. The counselor should also paraphrase periodically what they have listened to from the client. This will help the client to know that they are listening and that you have understood them right. Step 2, clarifying the child's expectations. In the first step, we have defined the problem and also we have learned the expectations of what the child think the counselor should do about the problem. We need to know that we cannot meet all the expectations that the child has. Sometimes the child can have unrealistic expectations. This is why we need to bring to the child's notice the realistic and unrealistic expectations that the child has posed. For example, if the child is nagging, the child should do the homework every day and the child wishes that the mother is punished by the counselor. This is unrealistic. However, the counselor can inform the child that she can speak to the mother and do the best possible in favor of the client. A child needs to know that the counselor is not a superhero, neither he is a magician to meet all the fantasies of the child. The counselor here needs to show the real world to the child through different alternatives by which the problem can be solved. Now we move on to the step 3, that is exploring what has done to solve the problem. A wise counselor needs to know about the past attempts to solve the problem. This will help the counselor to have a clear picture of the problem and focus on new approach to solve the problem. The counselor should avoid closed-ended questions and focus on open-ended questions. Use simple language that the child understands. Understand why earlier strategies didn't help the client. Change is facilitated when both the positives and the negatives are examined. Step 4 is about exploring what new things could be done to solve the problem. We know that every client has the ability to solve their own problems. Therefore, here we encourage the child to come up with as many alternatives as possible to solve their problem. This gives a child freedom and responsibility of their life. And this time, quantity of ideas is more important than the quality. A child may come with silly ideas, yet it gives them an understanding of their concern. Thompson suggests drawing empty circles on a sheet of paper and then see how many circles that the child can fill with ideas to initiate the brainstorming sessions. However, the counselor can begin this by filling the first two circles and later handing it over to the client to continue to do so. For example, a child who reaches late to school daily may come up with alternatives such as going to bed early, setting an alarm clock, asking his mother to wake him up, or keeping his uniform ready the previous night, packing his bag, completing his homework, and so like and so many more. Step 5, obtaining a commitment to try to work on one of the problems or one of the solutions that they have already looked upon. We all know about the story of the New Year resolution. I'm sure each one of us have given empty number of New Year resolutions every year. We have plans, we have ideas, but we are unsuccessful because of lack of commitment. Building commitment to try a new plan may be difficult, however, it's not impossible. The child is discouraged because of the previous failures to solve the problem. We need to encourage the child with achievable, simple goals which will boost their commitment. Constant evaluation is necessary to assess the success of the plan when an alternative doesn't work. The counselor can help the client to create a new one until the success is achieved. So, the success of the behavior or the goal set is important, and the change should be very much visible. The final step, that is the step 6, is closing the counseling interview. So, how do we close the interview? So, a good way to start to close the interview is to invite the child to summarize or review what was discussed in the session. This should take about 2 to 4 minutes. Process of summarization by the client can stimulate new thoughts. Summarization will also help the client review to the counseling interview their problem, their expectations, and the strategies. Finally, the counselor and the child makes plan for the next counseling interview or some type of maintenance plan if counseling is to be terminated. We have seen these 6 steps to the general model of counseling children, that is, defining the problem through active listening, clarifying the child's expectations, exploring what has been done to solve the problem, exploring what new things could be done to solve the problem, and the fifth one, obtaining a commitment to try one of the problem to solving ideas, and the final one is to closing the counseling interview. To close with the session, I would conclude with the thought: every child is gifted, they just unwrap the packages at different times. So, we as counselors need to be patient, should be respectful, should be incongruent. And at the same time, we have to have a long lasting relationship with the client. And to merge this all, we require the core conditions and the general model for counseling in order to reach our goal and to reach our destination, just like the roadmap in the road. Thank you.